Hi everyone, welcome back to the Compass Guide. My name is Kiran. In previous video we talked about research paradigms, and in today's video we are going to talk about research approach. Research is not only about numbers and charts, it's also about the stories that live behind them. Think of it in this way. Statistics might tell us that a trend exists, but they rarely explain the human heartbeat of that trend. That deeper layer, the feelings, the struggles, meanings people attach to their lives, where qualitative research steps in. It doesn't just record events, it listens, interprets, and gives voices to experiences that would otherwise stay invisible. Today, we are going to explore qualitative research, what it is, why it matters, and how it gives us insight into the words people create and inhabit. So, what exactly is qualitative research? At its core, qualitative research is an approach for exploring and understanding the meaning individuals or groups ascribe to a social or human problem, according to Creswell and Paul. And in simpler words, it's the study of meanings, experiences, and perspectives about why and how, not just how many. For example, a quantitative study may tell you that 60% of teachers feel unprepared to teach gender diverse students. A qualitative study would ask, why do they feel unprepared? What does unprepared means to them? That difference between counting and understanding is the soul of qualitative research. Now the question is when to use qualitative research. So we choose qualitative research when we want to explore experiences. For example, how refugees adjust to a new culture, to understand the processes, how students adapt to online learning. Qualitative research helps in understanding the meanings and context. For example, what success means to first generation scholars. And where the study is exploratory and it is studying something new, where theory is still in formation. Types of qualitative research. First is narrative research, which focuses on individuals' life stories. For example, following one PhD student's journey from rural India to an Ivy League university and how storytelling shapes their identity. Second type is phenomenology, which focuses on the essence of lived experiences. For example, interviewing 12 cancer survivors to understand the shared meaning of survival. Third type is grounded theory, which focuses on building theory from the ground up. This means that a researcher starts with the raw data and builds a theory from the ground up rather than starting with a pre-existing theory and trying to prove or disprove it. It is an inductive methodology. Inductive, you must know that from particular to general, where patterns, themes, and categories emerge directly from the data itself. Fourth type is ethnography, which focuses on cultural immersion, where researcher involve himself or herself in a particular group, community, or culture to gain a deep first-hand understanding of their shared behaviors, beliefs, social interaction, and ways of life. For example, living in a fishing village to understand how local traditions shape environmental practices. Last type of qualitative research is case study, which focuses on deep diving into one or few cases. It involves an in-depth, detailed examination of a single subject, which can be an individual, a group, an organization, or an event. This method provides rich and holistic understanding of a complex issue by exploring it in its real-world context. For example, an in-depth study of how one university designed its gender-inclusive hostel policy. Now let's take an example and try to understand that how to conduct qualitative research. We all know that first step is identifying the problem. So let's take a problem. How do rural women entrepreneurs balance family expectations and business responsibilities? Now we have to choose a type. If we are exploring shared meanings, then we are going to use the phenomenology. And if we want to build a theory, then we will use grounded theory. How to select the participants? Purposive sampling. Choose women entrepreneurs with at least 5 years experiences. Then apply snowball sampling, where one participant refers you to another. Now data collection. Let's say we are using interview method to collect the data. We will make our list of questions ready before going into the field and collect the data. Then we will ask the questions to our entrepreneurs. For example, can you tell me about a time when family responsibilities affected your work, and so on. Now the most important step, data analysis. Now that we have talked about collecting qualitative data, the next big question is, what do we actually do with it? Unlike quantitative research where you might run a test and immediately see numbers, qualitative data is usually, I would say, messy. Transcripts, field notes, diary entries, open-ended answers. It doesn't come with ready-made answers. That's why analysis in qualitative research is less about crunching numbers and more about making meaning. We don't just want to list what people said. We want to understand patterns across those voices, recurring ideas, the silences, and the emotions. That's where themes comes in. Themes are not simply topics. They are the deeper insights that capture the essence of what participants are telling us. Take a research problem. How do rural women entrepreneurs balance family expectations and business responsibilities? Let's say one woman say, I wake up at 4 a.m. to finish household chores before opening my shop. Another might share, even if my business is successful, my relatives still expect me to cook and serve during family gatherings. A third could add, my children help me in the shop, but then I feel guilty for not spending quality time with them. At first glance, these are different situations, but when we step back, we can see a pattern. These women are describing a constant juggling of roles, where family expectations compete with business responsibilities. The larger pattern is what we could call a theme. For instance, entrepreneurship as double workload or invisible expectations of women's labor. Themes are the bridge between individual voices and the bigger story your research is telling. And to build them, we move step by step, starting with transcription, moving to familiarization, then coding, and finally pulling everything together into meaningful themes. Before we even begin coding, it's important to know what kind of thematic analysis we are using, because the approach you choose will shape how you read, interpret, and organize your data. There are 3 major approaches: reflexive thematic analysis, codebook thematic analysis, and coding reliability thematic analysis. Each has its own philosophy and purpose. First, we are going to talk about reflexive thematic analysis, which was given by Virginia Brown and Victoria Clark. In reflexive thematic analysis, the researcher plays an active role in interpreting meaning. It's not about finding objective truths hidden in the data, but about exploring how themes are constructed through the researcher's engagement with the material. When you want to dig deep into experiences, identities, or cultural meanings, then we use reflexive thematic analysis. It is often used in psychology, sociology, gender studies, education, and health research, and suitable for small to medium data sets where rich interpretation is needed. Reflexive thematic analysis gives the researcher interpretive freedom but also demands reflexivity, meaning you must constantly ask, how am I shaping these themes with my own perspective? Second is codebook thematic analysis. Here the researcher team develops a structured codebook, a set of predefined codes and definitions which all team members use consistently. So it is used when the research project is team-based, where multiple researchers are analyzing large amounts of data in cross-country or multi-site studies where consistency is crucial. Codebook thematic analysis is often employed in applied research, policy evaluations, healthcare, and organizational studies. So, codebook thematic analysis balances flexibility with structure. It allows some interpretation but within agreed boundaries. Third, coding reliability thematic analysis. This approach focuses on coding as a technical process where multiple coders independently label the data and then compare results to check for inter-coder reliability or agreement. It is more positivist in nature, aiming for objectivity and replicability. It is used in large-scale studies where reliability and accuracy are prioritized. In education, psychology, and communication research, where researchers want to show that their coding is systematic and not just personal interpretation. When results need to be trusted by policymakers and stakeholders who prefer quantitative like rigor. In those projects, coding reliability thematic analysis is used. It is less interpretative and more about standardization. It is often closer to content analysis than interpretive qualitative research. For doing thematic analysis, the first step is transcription of data. You have to type it out word for word, your recorded interviews, and then read your transcripts to become familiarized with your data. Okay? Once you are familiar with your data, the next step is coding. Coding means labeling chunks of text with short phrases that capture their meaning. It's how we start moving from raw words to organized insights. There are several coding approaches, each with its own focus. First is open coding. Open coding means reading the data line by line and assign codes to any concept, idea, or issue that stands out. Nothing is fixed at this stage. It is open exploration. Open coding is the most basic form of coding. We use this type of coding at the start of analysis, especially in grounded theory or exploratory studies. You don't know what pattern will emerge from your data. Second type is axial coding. Axial coding links categories together. It's about relationships. Instead of just listing codes, you ask how do these codes connect. It is useful in studies where you want to map the cause effect or interaction. After open coding, when start building bigger categories, this axial coding is used. Selective coding. When you want to build a conceptual model or theory, selective coding comes into the picture to identify the core categories that ties everything together. The subcategories or sub-themes, you take them together under the core category. It is the central storyline of your data. It comes into the later stages of grounded theory. Next is in vivo coding. In vivo means in the living. In this approach, you use the participants' exact words as your code. It preserves their voice and perspective. So it is used when participants' language is powerful, unique, or culturally meaningful. This type of coding is common in narrative research, ethnography, or feminist research where voices matters. This keeps the raw authenticity of the participants' expressions. Last is process coding. Process coding often used in ethnography, action research, or longitudinal studies. It focuses on actions and activities, often using ing words. Ing means ing words. It captures what people do or experiences as a process in studies of social action, change, routines, or transitions. This highlights the active process of balancing roles, not just static feelings. So, open coding is exploration, breaking the data apart. Axial coding is connection, linking the categories. Selective coding is integration of the categories under the core category. In vivo coding, participants' voice, their exact words, and process coding is action, what actually people do. Together, these coding approaches allow you to move from scattered words to organized insights to meaningful themes. Now the last step is defining and reviewing the themes. What is theme actually? A theme is not just a group of codes. A theme is a pattern of meaning across your data that answers your research question. Think of it this way. Codes are like individual pieces of fabric. A theme is the stitched quilt that gives those pieces coherence and design. So a theme is a broader, interpretive, and tells what is important in the data and why. You must have a definition of your theme. Defining a theme means being crystal clear about what the theme is about and what it is not about. And how to do it? Name the theme clearly, short, meaningful, memorable. Write a definition of it in 2 or 3 sentences. Explain the essence of theme. Check the scope. Make sure the theme isn't too broad or too narrow. Then review your themes. Reviewing is about checking fit and coherence. It ensures your themes really represent the data, capture the meaning and your research question. Internal coherence should be there. All codes within a theme should relate to the same central idea. External distinction. Theme should be different from each other, not overlapping too much. Go back to transcript and check. Do codes actually support this theme? If not, revise. And then research question alignment. Ask, does this theme help answer my main research question? If not, consider dropping it and again do the process. Now the main step, writing findings. How to write them? Writing findings in qualitative research is not just listing themes. It's telling the story of your data with evidence. So you should start with themes, not codes. Findings should be structured around your final themes. Use participant quotes. For each theme, show excerpts from participants to give voice to their perspective. You should interpret, not just report, okay? After each quote, explain what it means in context. And then connect it to your research question. Always link back. How does this theme help answer your research question? Think of it as weaving. Quotes are the threads and your interpretation is the stitching that holds them into a meaningful pattern. Now, strengths and limitations of qualitative research. Qualitative research helps in understanding the experiences, emotions, and social meaning beyond numbers. It gives you in-depth understanding of the problem. Qualitative research is flexible. It allows adaptation as new insights emerge. It gives voice to the participants, often hidden in large surveys, and it is contextually rich, situates findings in cultural, social, and personal settings. These are the strengths of qualitative research. And the limitations are, you all know, the subjectivity, researcher bias, because researcher interpretation shapes findings. It is a strength, but also it is limitation. The qualitative research always or mostly have a small sample, so findings cannot be statistically generalized. Qualitative research is time intensive. Collecting, transcribing, and analyzing takes long effort. Last and very important limitation is reliability challenges. Different researchers might interpret data differently. But limitations don't make qualitative research weak, they just define its scope. Its strength is in depth, not in breadth. Finally, we arrived to the wrap-up video. So I think qualitative research is completely clear now. It is about listening to voices, finding patterns in their words, and turning them into insights that matter. It's not a shortcut method. It takes patience, empathy, and reflexivity. We have walked through what it means, its types, how to conduct it, how to analyze with coding and thematic analysis, and finally how to write up findings with honesty and clarity. Its beauty lies in its ability to make the invisible visible, to capture the lived realities that numbers alone cannot tell. Yes, it has its challenges, but when done carefully, it can transform our understanding of people, cultures, and institutions. As you practice, remember, the goal is not just to collect data, but to honor the voices you record. In the next Compass Guide video, we'll discuss quantitative research. But for now, if you have found value in this walkthrough, share it with someone starting their own research journey. Till then, stay curious, stay kind, and as always, keep your compass steady.